ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਵੈਲਕਮ everyone ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ so this is a series that we have just started and we are calling it living Gurbani series and I am in conversation with Ravinder Singh Veer ji Veer ji ਪਿਛਲੇ ਕਈ ਸਾਲਾਂ ਤੋਂ he has been engaging with Guru Granth Sahib and diving deeply to uncover the layers of Gurbani ਅਸੀਂ ਕੈਜੂਅਲੀ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਇਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਲੀਫ ਸਿਸਟਮ dogmas and fixed ways of looking at certain aspects of ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ de facto develop ਕਰ ਲਏ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਾਡੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਦੇਖਣ ਦੇ ਨਜ਼ਰੀਏ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੰਟੀਗ੍ਰੇਟ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਨੇ and we don't get to pause and reflect and question the basic essence of how it all started, questioning, which is what Guru Nanak did. And it wasn't ever about right and wrongs, blacks and whites, but about realizing, living it yourself. And on the other hand, we have gotten into kind of fixed ways of looking at things. So the intention is, I was having a conversation with Ravinder Viji. Why not dive deeper into it, have a dialogue out of my own curiosity to understand this and share it with all of you. So here we are starting right at the beginning with Jap Baani and what we call the Mool Manter. And that gives us a question to begin with that we call the first sort of the first verse that starts the Bani, if you will, that Guru Nanak wrote. We call it Mangalacharan, the Mool Manter. Is it really a mantra? And what is a mantra? And is this intended to be read as a mantra? Because a mantra essentially is something that you repeat over and over again to get a certain outcome, a certain benefit out of it. Mantra, a tool, a device of the mind, a device of thought. So let's welcome Ravinder Veer ji. ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ
ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਫॉर having me on
it is our pleasure thank you for doing this thank you for agreeing to dive deeper into the Bani with us and sharing all that you've been discovering in the last several years that you've been engaging with Gurbani.
Hanji, surely the pleasure is entirely mine, to be quite honest. I think this kind of dialogue is missing, although I see more and more of it happening, which is very encouraging. I see a lot of people talking about Gurbani, trying to, as you said, get away from fixed notions that we have inherited, especially in the diaspora where I live. The big challenge is the language itself, because Sikhs growing up here I'm in the US, bache are interested but clearly not connected with the language. Although I might add that even Punjabi-speaking Punjabis in Punjab are not connected with Gurbani, the language. Language, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਮਝ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਬੋਲ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਮੁਗਾਲਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਣੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ. So that is another layer of confusion, quite apart from the fact that, as you said, we have fixed ideas. So ਅੱਜ ਆਪਾਂ, as we talk, why not start at the beginning with Jap Baani? And Jap Baani cannot commence without starting with what we call the Mool Manter. So
Absolutely.
we are actually stepping into very sacred space here. And I just want to make sure that we remain very mindful that the space we are stepping into ਕਿ ਉੱਥੇ ਅਦਬ ਦੇ ਪੈਰ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਰੀਏ ਰੱਖੀਏ
बिल्कुल।
ਕਿਉਂਕਿ Bani Guru have Bani, and the Guru is ultimately ineffable. ਮਤਲਬ ਇਹ ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਬੋਲੀ 'ਚ ਗਿਰਫਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ. So we'll have a dialogue in humility, and we will seek the help of the Guru, Guru Nanak himself, in spirit through his words to help us understand. So to your point, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਹੁਣ ਕਾਫੀ ਸਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਨੇ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਨਾਲ ਬੈਕ ਐਂਡ ਫੋਰਥ ਕਰਦਿਆਂ transcreation. So I'm not translating literally as much as I'm transcreating. And for those of you who may not know the difference between translation and transcreation, I certainly didn't, but the difference is this: when you translate, what you are trying to do is maintain the sequence of the words, the order of the words. You're trying to be very literal. You're replacing one word with another word from the other language, and you're trying to retain the grammar as far as possible.
Right.
Uh, that's translation. But if you look at our English translations, which have been done literally, you see the difficulties. I mean, and I'm sure you have too. They are not satisfying at all. Not only is the English very awkward and very, archaic, outdated. Uh, it makes no sense in many way. At many times, it just reads like a static. Transcreation the ਨਾਲ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ there are some liberties that the translator can take. The translator can actually become the bridge between the original piece, and then kind of bridge over the cultural gap. And so the
Hmm.
bridging over happens by the transcreator.
Hmm.
So in effect, I'm taking Gurbani, bringing it across 550 years, and rewriting it in the light of my own understanding. So
Sure.
I'm the one bridging that gap in the light of my own understanding of Gurbani. You see? So that becomes my transcreation. So what I've done is I've retained the literal translations. We'll talk about that. We don't want to get sidelined by that translation project or the transcreation project. But ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ inherit ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਨੇ meanings, as you said, ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ conditioning ਬਣ ਗਈਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਨੇ. That's
Hmm.
how we think. That's how we approach the Mool Mantar, which is what we are going to do. And I would recommend that before we get any further, ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ Mool Mantar ਦਾ ਉਚਾਰਨ ਕਰ ਲਈਏ.
बिल्कुल।
ਅੱਛਾ. So let's do it.
एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निरभव निर्वैर अकाल मूरत अजूनी सैभं गुर प्रसाद।
There is not total agreement on where the Mool Mantar ends. There
Sure.
are traditional views that insist that you must carry on to Jap Ad Sach, Jugad Sach, Hai Bhi Sach, Nanak Hosi Bhi Sach. And
Hmm.
then there are modern translators who feel that it should actually end at Gur Prasad because it has that full stop. दो
Hmm.
डंडे लगे हुए हैं
लगे हुए
uh,
हैं।
हाँ, कहने ਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ there is not universality ਕਿ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾਓਗੇ to the more traditional centers ਤੇ ਉਹ ਆਦ ਸਚ ਹੋਸੀ ਵੀ ਸੱਚ ਤੱਕ ਕਹਿਣਗੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਆਰਗੂਮੈਂਟ ਜੋ ਮੈਂ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ at the end of the day, this is Guru Nanak's signature move, not his signature so much as his signature move, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ
Mhm.
ਨੇ reveal ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ based on his own experience। ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਮਤਲਬ ਗੱਲ ਬਣਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ।
Okay,
ਸੈਕੰਡਲੀ
interesting.
ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਹਾਂ ਬਈ ਨਾਨਕ ਆਇਆ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਿਕੋਜ਼ ਉੱਤੇ ਤੇ ਕੁਝ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਨਾ ਸਿਰਲੇਖ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ। It is
Mhm.
just, it starts almost like a drone coming into your presence. Ik Oankar Satnam, and you read it, it is unfolding. When you
Mhm.
read it, it sounds like an unfolding. And then Nanak says, Jap enu realize kar, ajo
Mhm.
boliya gaya hai, enu jiyo. ਇਹ ਕੀ ਹੈ? ਇਹ ਆਦ ਸੱਚ ਹੈ, ਜੁਗਾਦ ਸੱਚ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਸੱਚ ਹੈ, ਨਾਨਕ ਕਹਿ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੋਸੀ ਵੀ ਸੱਚ। So ਇਹ
Mhm.
argument traditional hai ke it must include Nanak's. The others, of course, have their arguments. My personal bias is that I go with the traditionalists on this one. I
Mhm.
think it is indeed Babaji's signature move. क्योंकि ये बड़ी यूनिक है ऐतिहासिक तौर पे, लिटरेरी तौर पे, scriptural तौर पे। You haven't quite seen anything like एक ओंकार, which is what I
Right.
talk about, right? Because ਸਾਡੇ translators ਨੇ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ sum up ਕਰ ਲਓ ਤੇ ਬੜੀ ਬਹਾਦਰੀ ਹੈ। They'll call it a preamble, a logo, a creedal statement, or an opening verse. That's about the sum of all English translations, not to mention the fact that it is also referring to a God out there.
Yeah.
That's another layer of difficulty that we
Yeah,
have.
because the way the English language is also, it has its own limitations. It does not
Absolutely.
allow for that. There's always, you have to externalize something
Huh.
to really talk about it. You have to put it out there as something apart from you, and then talk about it. Whereas here, maybe something different is happening.
We'll
Till
try and uncover that.
Yeah.
My sense is, which is why I think we are having this conversation, is over the years, I've been extremely dissatisfied with logo, preamble, symbol, insignia. It just doesn't satisfy me. It was just too static, right? I mean, a logo is uh, it's like a badge that you wear externally. Uh, a preamble is like some kind of text that is setting you up, and
Mm.
then a symbol, which is what language is, which is what you're talking about, is it signifies another thing. Language the अंदर ही separation बैठी हुई है।
Betty, yeah.
It needs a subject and an object, right? So ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਨੇ collapse ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ। That's my sense. So that is why, as I mentioned to you, that the more I looked at Ikonkar, so I think we are going to now move into looking at the very first uh, set of word alphanumeric. The first alphanumeric, Ik
So before
Onkar.
that, before we go there, we
Mhm.
just call this the Mool Manter.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that. Mool is fine. I mean, this is Guru Nanak's master stroke. And as the story goes, he just
That's a
emerged
good
out of
word.
Vainadi, and these are the
Yeah,
utterances,
yeah,
the word that came out as a like it sounds like a drone.
yeah,
And Mool is fine. I can understand, but
yeah.
Mantar is like, what does it really mean, and where does it come from? Like, nowhere in the Bani there's a title which says Mool Mantar. So what
Well,
brought
yeah.
about this Like we calling it the Mool Mantar. And is there any significance behind it? Calling this a mantar? What
Well,
do you think about that?
here's my sense. What little investigation that I have done. Mantra jada shabad hai na,
Hmm.
it comes from man and tra, an instrument of the mind.
Sure.
Man te man ho gaya. Tra ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਇਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤਾਰਨਾ ਤਰਨਾ
Hmm.
ਸੋ ਇਹਦੇ ਦੋ ਨੂਆਂਸਡ ਮੀਨਿੰਗਸ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਤੇ ਤਰਨਾ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਤਾਰ ਦੇਵੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨਾ ਤਾਰ ਲੈ
Hmm. Hmm.
ਰਾਮਾ
Hmm.
ਮੋਕੋ ਤਾਰ ਲੈ
Hmm.
Gurbani is replete with this metaphor of tarna ठीक है so in order to understand a mantra you also have to understand ਕਿ ਬਾਣੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਭਵ ਸਾਗਰ ਆਖਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ ਭਵ
Hmm.
ਸਾਗਰ
Hmm.
a turbulent, fearful ocean. ਤੇ ਭਵ ਸਾਗਰ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਹੀ ਸੁਖ ਸਾਗਰ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਹੈ
Hmm. Hmm.
which is a synonym for naam which is where we have to get to
Hmm.
ਅਗਰ plain language ਵਿੱਚ explain ਕਰਨਾ ਹੋਵੇ conceptually ਸਿਧਾਂਤ ਦੇ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਭਈ ਅਸੀਂ ਭਵ ਸਾਗਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਾਂ ਭਵ ਸਾਗਰ ਹਉਮੈ ਨੇ ਜਾਣਾ
Hmm.
ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਕਮ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਹੈ
हुक्म
ਹਉਮੈ
ताई है सुख
two
सागर.
centers within you ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਉਹ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮੈਟਾਫਰ ਯੂਜ਼ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ ਓਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਸਾਗਰ ਦਾ
Hmm.
ਸਮੁੰਦਰ ਦਾ ਉਹ ਤਰਨਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਸੋ ਜੇ ਤਰ ਕੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਬੰਨੇ ਕੋਈ ਐਸਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਇਨਸਟਰੂਮੈਂਟ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਨਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਮਤਲਬ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਜਾਵੇ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ
Hmm.
ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ
Hmm.
ਤਾਰ ਦੇਵੇ
Hmm.
ਸੋ ਇਹ ਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ what it means is ਮਨ ਦੀ ਟਰਾਂਸਫਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ
Right.
ਸਾਈਕੋਲੋਜੀਕਲ ਟਰਾਂਸਫਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਜੇ ਸਾਈਕੋਲੋਜੀਕਲ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਲਵੋ ਉਹਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮੰਤਰ ਉਹ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਸਾਈਕੋਲੋਜੀਕਲ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਬਦਲ ਦੇਵੇ
Hmm. Hmm.
ਹੁਣ
So the way
in
you are
that
going into it, it is defying the limited perception कि मंत्र ਉਹੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਬਸ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਪੀ ਜਾਈਏ and just repeat it like
ਹਾਂ ਉਹ ਹੋਇਆ
ram
ਕੀ
ram ram
ਹੈ
ram ram and it has a certain effect on
ਹਾਂ ਹੋਇਆ
the
ਕੀ
body
ਹੈ
mind system.
the problem is this was the etymology of the word mantra. And in the Indian systems, it was used for the verses of the Veda.
Hmm.
ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੰਤਰ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀ
Hmm.
ਕਿਉਂਕਿ it was believed that those words had potency in them
Hmm.
and that if you repeated them or assimilated those words that their potency would actually come to reside within you and that would
Hmm.
transform your mind. You see, it is not very distinct from how we think about Gurbani.
Hmm. Yeah.
Words that can actually transform your mind, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So ਉਹ ਇੰਨਾ ਫਰਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਗਾ। ਹੋਇਆ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਕਰਪਸ਼ਨ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਆ ਗਈ ਹੈ ਕਿ by the time you came into the period of the Puranas and ਜਿਹੜੇ ritualism ਕਰਮ
Hmm.
ਕਾਂਡ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੰਤਰ became a bargaining chip.
Mm. In its true essence, even in the Vedic system, a mantra is not intended to be as
ਹਾਂ
such, but it eventually became because
it
of
became
the socio-political kind of
yes so it became a
system.
ritual.
It became a ritual.
It became a ritual. The ritual ਦਾ ਕੀ ਹੈ ritual external ਹੈ ਸੋ ਹਰ ਵੇਲੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਰਟਣਾ ਹੈ
Hmm.
ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਰਪਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਵੜ ਆਈ ਹੈ ਵੜ ਕੀ ਆਈ ਹੈ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਹੀ ਆਏ ਹਾਂ
Hmm.
so we haven't yet shaken it off
Hmm.
we have to actually realign it with its original meaning
Hmm. Hmm.
an instrument to transform the mind.
So I think this is a very important learning that so much of the vocabulary in Gurbani
Yeah,
is the same from the Vedic base.
yeah,
And we tend to lean towards the colored version of those words, that vocabulary, that terminology, which happened later on. And therefore, our perception of Gurbani also gets similarly colored
Mhm.
as it happened in that time, and which was exactly the effort of the gurus. And we just inherit that bias from that foregone period. So
Mhm.
it becomes very essential then to go into the root of the word, the
Yeah.
makeup of the words. Not just for the Mool Mantar, we just took the Mool Mantar, and now it
Yeah.
is beginning to make so much sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is why Gurbani is constantly telling you to rasana nal ucharan kar.
Mm,
Alone. मतलब उस बाणी दी गूंज अपने अंदर बना
mm,
तेरा अंदर दा साइकोलॉजिकल एनवायरनमेंट जेड़ा है वो अकूस्टिक जेड़ा है वो ठीक होवे
mm,
साउंड नाल ठीक है सो I personally feel that if we look at mantra in its proper perspective, then this could be your foundational utterance.
mm, mm, mm.
This is Guru Nanak's foundational utterance. So, um, can we move on to Ikwankar then?
Yeah.
So the thing that is very striking about that Ik Oankar, which I have looked at, stared at, which is called the logo, is that it is an alphanumeric. That is the
Mm,
thing that struck me first
yeah.
many years ago, because I said it's kind of odd that Guru Nanak should use an alphanumeric, even though people use it as ik, which it is not. It is not, it is using the numeral ik, but it is not signifying one as opposed to two,
Mm,
as opposed to three. It's not implying that, right? दूसरे पासे उन्होंने ओंकार ला देता है उड़ा ला देता है with a open curve car.
mm,
ਸੋ ਦ ਸਵਾਲ ਇਹ ਸੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਮੇਰੇ ਮਾਈਂਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਚੱਲਦਾ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੁਣ ਵੀ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ which I'm sharing with you, partly because I'm hoping that our dialogue can clarify this even in my own mind,
mm,
uh, because it is like an epiphany that I've had of late. कि एक ओंकार, why shouldn't I see it as a notation, like a mathematical notation?
mm,
That a master stroke. I mean, Pella, it is like a mathematical and acoustical musical notation. The whole Mool Mantar can be seen as a notation, because if you see it as a notation, then it becomes something that you have to work out in your own consciousness. It has to
mm,
be solved,
mm.
not something to be chanted.
Yeah, because then, like what you started with, it is no longer like an a description or of something out there, of
Yes,
of a belief system, of a cult, or whatever, a creed. It's no longer describing something which is
yes,
outside of you.
yeah,
Because if you have to describe something, you have to step outside and be an
yes,
observer. And
yes,
if I am reading it as a description, it's also out there. And which is the fundamental error of this one God. People really trivialize it so often, that
yes,
Guru Nanak prophesied one God. Prophecy and one God is again very counterintuitive to what is being
yes.
done here. And what
He
you're
wasn't
pointing
talking
to
about God
is,
at all.
yeah, there is, it's not monotheistic, it is not
Yeah.
polytheistic. This is beyond theism.
Yes.
It's just pointing to something very, very different. And what you're talking here, that it is probably a notation a
Yes.
musical notation,
And a mathematical notation.
and a mathematical
Alphanumeric.
notation, and like a computer program, if you
Yeah.
will. And in
Yeah.
itself, it's nothing.
Yeah.
It does not hold any value. Yeah,
It's
it's
a
very
basic
interesting.
signifier.
Yes.
It signifies everything, right? So, actually, if you if you examine the old Atlikat Bida ne na,
Mm,
handwritten manuscripts, जिस तरह पहले लिखा गया है,
mm,
the thing that will strike you is that there is a spatial distance from Ikonkar to the rest of the Mool Mantar. It's not written in a straight line like Chape waliyan beedan ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ printed. ਇਹ
very
printing
interesting.
ਦੀ problem ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ if you look at the old Kartarpuri bead, Ikonkar stands alone
Wow.
on top. It stands alone. ਜਾਂ ਉਹ ਥੱਲੇ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਜਾਂ ਸਪੇਸ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਹੋਏਗਾ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਗੌਰ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਾਲ ਜੋੜ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ to sort of read it all as one.
So you're saying there's like a pause?
It is like a pause, yes and no. What it is saying to you is, at least the way I'm beginning to understand it or see it,
Mm.
to print.
So say
You
more on
should,
that. What do you mean by a mathematical representation of reality for a?
देखो ਜਿਹੜੀ notation ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ, the
Mm,
reason I'm talking in terms of a notation instead of a symbol or whatever.
mm,
Notation ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ, mathematical notation ਲੈ ਲਓ, musical notation ਲੈ ਲਓ, code ਦੀ notation ਲੈ ਲਓ, computer code ਦੀ।
mm,
ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਵਿੱਚ this is a triad of notations that are
mm,
in Ikonkar. You have to tease them out. So the numeric is the mathematical notation. It is saying there is one undifferentiated reality which is pure potential.
mm,
Notations compression ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਮਤਲਬ
mm,
ਕਿਸੇ reality ਦੀ compression ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਦੂਸਰੀ ਗੱਲ notations relational ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ so there is a relationship between the ik and the oankar
mm,
notations ਦੀ ਤੀਸਰੀ quality ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ they are generative they are live ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ live ਚੀਜ਼ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਦੇਖੋ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ musical notation ਨੂੰ ਵਜਾਉਂਦੇ ਹੋ
mm.
ਕੀ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ music ਪੈਦਾ ਹੁੰਦੀ
Music
ਹੈ
pada hunda.
ਪੈਦਾ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਰਾਈਟ ਸੋ ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ is telling you something and telling you ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਸਮਝਦਾ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ
Yeah.
ਓੰਕਾਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਦੱਸ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਤੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਹਨੂੰ realize ਕਰ you are a unit albeit a small little unit a drop in an ocean but your underlying structure is ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ
Mm,
as it is for each one of us
mm,
ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਸੋ ਇੱਕ ਹੈ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਹੈ ਸੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਚੱਲ ਕੀ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਇੱਕ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ total potential which is the numeric and it is sounding itself ਓੰਕਾਰ is sound
right.
ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ potential ਹੈ unlimited potential ਜਾਂ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੇਤਨਾ consciousness ਵੀ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਰਾਈਟ
Mm,
ਉਹ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਊਂਡ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਐਜ਼ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਿਵ consciousness create kar rahi hai at all
mm,
times. In a sense, when you look at it as notation,
mm,
you realize that it was not meant to be a mantra to recite,
mm,
simply recite, but to jap. जप दे भी मैंने बाबा जी ने broaden कर ਦਿੱਤੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ, we'll come to that also. So ਇੱਕ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ mathematical universal set ਹੈਗਾ, mathematics universal set ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ,
Mm.
right? So it is mathematician नहीं ਆ, but थोड़ा बहुत जो ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸਮਝ आई है because of my interest in looking at this mathematically, because it's like E equals mc squared.
Okay, very interesting. So you're saying one is not like the mathematical 1, 2, 3, 1. You're
No,
saying
no, no, no. It's the
it's the
universal
universal
set.
set. There is
हाँ
a null set and there is a one set in
हाँ
mathematics.
हाँ
Very
ਹੁਣ
interesting.
only
So
ਮੈਨੂੰ
this changes
mathematics नहीं आती, but
everything.
it's the universal
The
set.
the universal set which contains everything.
Everything.
Because otherwise it's very easy to confuse this as one god. एक है
That is the
रब,
problem.
है ना? और
That is,
वो बैठा है
yeah,
उत्थे ते तू इत्थे है.
तू
So
ਇੱਥੇ
there is
बैठा है
like
नहीं,
no intersection in the two sets. Now how
हाँ,
can you get close to that रब
ये
जिथे कोई
universal set
intersection ही
है,
नहीं है?
हाँ, it is not one of many, it is whole.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So ਇਹ ਤੇ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਇੱਕ, ਹੁਣ ਆਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਓੰਕਾਰ, right? So ਇਹ pure awareness ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ, ਇੱਕ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ pure awareness ਵੀ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ in metaphysical language, in
Hmm.
poetic language, in metaphorical language, ਚੇਤਨਾ ਵੀ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ, universal consciousness ਵੀ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, which contains everything. ਠੀਕ
Right.
ਹੈ? So ਉਹਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ I'm just saying that it looks like a, because E equals mc square ਇੱਕ ਬੜਾ ਛੋਟਾ ਜਿਹਾ equation ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਤੋਂ ਐਟਮ ਬੰਬ ਬਣ ਗਏ ਨੇ,
बन गए ने.
being ਕਿ
But
ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ
by
tease
executing
out
that
ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ.
equation, like
Yeah.
it's also like a notation, and it's
हाँ,
in itself the notation does not do anything. But once you,
exactly.
like you said, play that notation, once
हाँ,
you
हाँ,
है ना ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਖੇਡਣਾ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ,
Kanji.
ਹੈ ਤੇ
Exactly.
it's like
Because,
a recipe, you know,
हाँ,
it's in itself it's nothing, but
yeah.
once you and there is room for play as well. Like I
बिल्कुल.
might play that same musical note slightly differently, you might play it slightly
Or sing
differently.
that notes like, or sing that rag somewhat differently,
Differently,
but still be in
but
the rag.
still be in the rag.
Yeah.
But
राग
there
ਦੇ
is
ਵਿੱਚ innovation ਦੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਗੁੰਜਾਇਸ਼,
uh,
ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਰਾਗ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ. You and I could be singing the same rag,
mm,
but we could innovate somewhat differently
mm. So then the
by
question
staying
comes
in the
to my
rag.
mind, when I see this like a notation and not like how I see a prose, a poetry, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, what difference does it make for me as a reader? Is it does the reading become any different? How does it impact the reader?
Well, I can tell you what impact it had on me.
Yeah.
I mean, when I began this exercise of transcreating Gurbani, I followed a particular approach. I began this years ago. जब जी दी मैं ट्रांसलेशन बड़ी देर पहलों ਦਾ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਵਾਂ, ਮੈਂ ਕਰ
Mm,
ਕਰਕੇ ਤੇ ਡਰਾਅਰ 'ਚ ਰੱਖ ਛੱਡਦਾ ਸਾਂ, because I was
mm,
never fully satisfied.
mm,
ਤੇ ਉਹ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿੰਨੀਆਂ ਵਰਜ਼ਨਸ ਹੋਣਗੀਆਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋਲ।
mm.
ਔਰ ਦੂਸਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਇਹ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰਚਾਰਕ, ਕੋਈ ਗ੍ਰੰਥੀ, ਕੋਈ ਰਾਗੀ ਮੈਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਛੱਡਿਆ ਹੋਣਾ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਏਗਾ, from childhood onwards, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ? So I was saturated with what comes to us from our preachers and ragis and granthis and what have you.
Right.
But when I began to do this, and this, I say this precisely because I'm hoping that anyone who's listening to this will take something from this. मैं ये सोचा कि this is, मैं हूं किसी ਨੂੰ नहीं सुनना,
Mm,
because सुन के मैं उसे ही घूमन घेरी च पिया होया. There is one
बिल्कुल.
God who enjada, and you come back. ਹਉਮੈ ਹੈ, ਹਉਮੈ ਨੂੰ ਕੱਢੋ, ਹੁਕਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲੋ। ਨਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੁਕਮ ਕੀ ਹੈ, ਨਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹਉਮੈ ਕੀ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਉਹ ਉਹ ਲਫ਼ਜ਼ਾਂ ਦਾ ਫੇਰ ਹੈ।
ਲਫ਼ਜ਼ਾਂ ਦਾ ਫੇਰ ਹੈ, ਯੈਸ।
ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਯਾਰ I am going to step out of this and I'm going to reach out to the Guru embodied in text. It will be that Guru and me. ਇਉਂ ਕਹਿ ਲਵੋ ਕਿ ਮੇਰਾ ਵਕਤ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਪ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦਾ ਬੰਦਾ ਕੁਝ ਵੀ, ਮੈਂ ਐਮ ਕਨਵਿੰਸਡ ਆਫ ਦੈਟ। ਸਮਾਂ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ, ਗੁਰੂ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਫੜ ਲਿਆ ਬਾਂਹ ਤੋਂ ਤੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਤੂੰ ਆ ਜਾ। ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਕਰ, ਸਟਾਰਟਿੰਗ ਫਰਮ ਜਪਜੀ, I started going into the etymology of the word. ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੀ word ਸੀ, every word in every shabad, I started looking at the root individually. ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਯਾਰ I've got to understand where is this word coming from.
Right.
That took me to a fair amount of digging deep, still do, into Sanskrit dictionaries, because most of the words there are rooted in Sanskrit, like it or not. I know some
Sure.
of us are allergic to that idea, but that is where they come from. What that revealed to me was ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ translations ਮੈਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਦਾ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਜਾਂ ਵਿਆਖਿਆਕਾਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਮ ਵਿਆਖਿਆ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, what that revealed to me is ਕਿ ਇਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਮ ਬਾਜ਼ਾਰੀ ਬੋਲੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੋਲਦੇ। ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ, ਚਲੋ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਲੈ ਲਓ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਹੁਣ ਜੇ ਚਰਨ ਕਮਲ ਆਇਆ ਤੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਲੋਟਸ ਫੀਟ ਬਣਾਤਾ,
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ,
ਵਿਦਆਊਟ ਇੰਡੀਕੇਟਿੰਗ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕੀ। ਸੋ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗਹਿਰਾਈ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੋ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਮਝ ਆਣੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਚਰਨ ਕਿਉਂ ਯੂਜ਼ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਕਮਲ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਉਂ ਜੁੜਦਾ ਹੈ। there is symbolism, they are metaphorical. So ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਦੀ metaphorical ਜਿਹੜੀ ਜ਼ਬਾਨ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸਮਝ ਆਣੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ। So the first thing you do is you drop colloquial meanings. You start going into the deeper meanings. ਇਹ ਫਰਕ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਦੂਸਰਾ ਕੀ ਫਰਕ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ you begin to see the plot. There is a metaphysical story being told to you.
Right.
It's just a metaphysical model. It's a mystical model. It's not, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਲਿਖੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ। Then what reveals itself to you also is the structure. ਬਾਣੀ ਦਾ structure poetic ਹੈਗਾ, poetic ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ musical ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਬਾਰ-ਬਾਰ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਗਾ ਇਹਨੂੰ, which is one reason I thought yaar ਇਹ acoustical model ਵੀ ਹੈਗਾ। Oankar is this one becoming sound constantly. ਇਹ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ, ਇਹ sequentially ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ। This is reality. This is the paradox of reality. It is simultaneously complete awareness and being, and also sounding, creating. हरकत हो रही है और चेतना बिल्कुल टोटल अवेयरनेस है, और इकट्ठियां हो रहा है काम। Now that boggles the mind. That's how I see Ikonkar, and I've come to see Ikonkar because I have taken the time, शौक भी हुंदा I guess, वो भी महाराज जी लांदे ने, to understand कि यार ये structure की है, what's going on behind। तो उथों की समझ आंदा है, की समझ आया बाणी दे अंदर हर।
Sorry to pause you here. Would it be right to put this caveat ki this is the way you have come to see it, but
Yes.
this might not be the way
No,
to look at it,
not at all.
because
Not
I've
at all.
seen so many people who hardly know the etymology, the Sanskrit origins. Oh, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਭਗਤੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਭਾਵਨਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, I was listening to Osho also, and he was like, innocence का तो कोई मुकाबला ही नहीं है। If innocently, some people that just go and hug the Guru Granth Sahib and cry, and at one point in time, I used to mock them that like you're getting into Murti Puja by hugging a book. But now at this stage of my life, I think to each one his own. If that is, getting those emotions out of them, and making them feel that connection, that might be the path for them, and which is the freedom and flexibility that Gurbani allows. What do you think about that?
No, that's a very important point that you raised. Uh, ਬਾਣੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੁਰੂ ਨੂੰ ਪੂਰਾ ਆਖਿਆ ਹੈ,
Hmm.
ਗੁਰ ਪੂਰਾ, complete,
Right.
perfection. So I was curious ਕਿ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੂਰਾ ਕਿਉਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨੂੰ ਥਾਂ ਥਾਂ ਤੇ ਗੁਰ ਪੂਰਾ ਭਇਆ ਤੇ
Hmm.
ਆਗ, pura.
Very
I did some
interesting.
research and I discovered, and this is one of the distinguishing features of Guru Nanak. This is one of his uniqueness, ਕਹਿ ਲਵੋ ਕਿ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਹਿੰਦੁਸਤਾਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਪਰੰਪਰਾਵਾਂ ਚੱਲਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ, they are segmented. ਇਹ ਗਿਆਨ ਮਾਰਗ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਭਗਤੀ ਦਾ ਮਾਰਗ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਕਰਮ ਮਾਰਗ ਹੈ, ਇਸ ਕੈਟੇਗਰਾਈਜ਼ੇਸ਼ਨ ਬੜੀ ਸਟਰੋਂਗ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਉੱਥੇ। ਸੋ ਕੋਈ ਮਤਲਬ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਂਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਵੇਦਾਂਤ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਗਿਆਨ ਮਾਰਗ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ,
Hmm.
ਰਾਈਟ। ਗੀਤਾ ਵਗੈਰਾ ਕਰਮ ਮਾਰਗ ਚਲਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਯੂ ਫੋਲੋ ਦ ਪੁਆਇੰਟ। ਇਹ
Bilkul.
ਤਿੰਨੋਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਵੰਡੀਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਨੇ। ਗੁਰੂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਤਿੰਨਾਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਮੇਟ ਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਰਿਹਾ,
Hmm.
ਠੀਕ ਹੈ। ਗਿਆਨ ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੈ, ਕਰਮ ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੈ, ਭਗਤੀ ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੈ।
Hmm.
Okay, so now to answer your question directly, obviously this is my way of going at it, but it ultimately leads you to the realization that jo main kar raha, this is only a learning aid. Eventually, it is leading you into bhakti.
Hmm. Hmm. It's becoming a means.
It's a means, okay? You don't need, in fact, I will tell you that those who actually, as you've described, who are very innocent in their approach, are probably closer to the truth than people who are intellectually oriented, because your intellect can become a barrier.
Hmm.
Speaking for myself, I feel like I'm quite blessed in that I also feel the devotional side of it. I mean, as a
Hmm.
kid, man, बहुत ज़्यादा, the devotional element was very strong. So, mere vaste, this digging into Gurbani is simply an aid to understand better. But sab to vada farak ki pya, I stopped looking at a God out there.
Hmm.
And I realized that that God is right here.
You know what? You will be surprised, and it is mind-boggling for me to like remember this today. As a child, not even as a child, till I was
Mm,
about more than 30 years of age, I used to think that Guru Nanak was a god.
mm.
Like that's how
We all did.
we
We all did.
and then there was a conversation happening, and that he was a normal human being, and then he experienced something and he wrote about it. Like it shattered. It was like cognitive dissonance for me. Like
Yeah.
we ਉਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਕੂਲ ਚ ਹੀ ਰਟਵਾਇਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੇ 10 ਗੁਰੂ ਲਾਈਕ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੇ 10 god, but there is one god. Like there were so many
Uh,
dichotomies in the common parlance of talking about Sikhi or Sikhism, that but you're talking about your curiosity. It's
yeah.
only until your curiosity starts to question things, nobody can make sense for you. It's only
No,
your curiosity that can begin to kind of dig deep into the rabbit hole.
there's an old saying, questing to quest for
Hmm,
something. Questing is questioning.
hmm, hmm,
It's the
hmm.
same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Hmm,
So
hmm,
I have been blessed with curiosity as well.
hmm,
And part of it was also disappointment at the English translations that we talked about. And I felt, yeah, I think I can
hmm,
maybe come up with a more simple, mera expression, basically. Ki hai. ਸੋ ਇਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਓਂਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਥੋੜਾ ਅੱਜ ਫੋਕਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਕ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਸਾਊਂਡ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਬੋਲ ਰਿਹਾ, ਇੱਕ ਕੀਤਾ ਪਸਾਓ ਏਕੋ ਕਵਾਓ, ਇੱਕੋ ਵਾਰੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਉਹ ਕੰਟੀਨਿਊਸਲੀ ਚੱਲੀ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕੰਟੀਨਿਊਸਿਟੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਕਾਰ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਣਿਆ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਸਾਈਨ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਖੁੱਲਾ ਖੁੱਲਾ ਊੜਾ ਹੈ, ਗਲਿਫ ਬਣਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਉੱਤੇ ਊੜੇ ਦੇ। I don't know if you ever noticed it.
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਉਹ ਖੁੱਲਾ ਹੈ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਥਾਂ ਲਾਈਕ there was a time in my life when I used to toko people ਕਿ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਬੰਦ ਨਾ ਕਰੋ ਖੋਲ ਕੇ ਰੱਖੋ uninterrupted and never ending. Then itself.
And that field is our existence. You see, that is what it is. The Satnam de utte assi choti ji gal, then we'll have to stop.
Yeah.
Ek Onkar leads to Satnam. And I want to leave you with this thought. ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਥੋੜਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਾਣੀ ਦੇ ਗ੍ਰਾਮਰ ਤੇ obsess ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ। The rules are quite simple. ਜਿਹੜੇ obsess ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਫਸ ਹੀ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਹੁਣ ਸਿਹਾਰੀ ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ 15-20 ਕੇਸਿਸ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਦੱਸ ਦਿਓ grammatical cases, right? To me, you're going crazy, right? Why don't you stick with the master sort of guidance ਕਿ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਿਹਾਰੀ ਲੱਗੀ ਹੈ that becomes an adverb. ਕੋਈ ਐਕਸ਼ਨ ਬਣ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਸਤ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੱਤੇ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਸਿਹਾਰੀ ਹੈ। ਓਕੇ, ਨਾਮ ਦੇ ਥੱਲੇ ਔਂਕੜ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਨਾਮ is a noun. ਸਤ is ਕੁਝ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਸਤ stands for perpetual. ਸਤ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ। Sat stands for the truth as well. Not necessarily propositional truth, but the truth as in perpetual. So Gurbani is saying, and we will stop here, कि एक ओंकार अपने आप ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ process है, it is collapsing into perpetual naam. Naam is the structured reality.
Wow.
Of this unmanifest. The unmanifest is becoming manifest, and it is structuring as Naam. So Naam becomes the basic ground of all reality. So a pehla collapse hai into. So it is not like, so Naam is a notation of that same score. ठीक है ना? Musician समझ जाएगा.
How these the verb and the noun are put together. That one is the naam, and it is perpetually happening. And it is
naam sach hai. See, translation, his name is truth, right?
His name is truth.
Truth is the name. No, because they have missed out. Because I'll tell you, when I read English translations of people, they were all, they did this in their retirement. Okay, they were administrators mostly. Retire and then they were lazy. Because I'm telling myself कि यार जे तू संस्कृत डिक्शनरी लभ सकना है, मनु कोई पढ़ाने वाला नहीं इत्थे बैठा होया, right? ये भी एक बड़ी मजेदार चीज है कि एक प्रोसेस ही तुम्हारा गुरु बन जाता है।
गुरु बन जाता है, like for any activity,
right? So they are also a bit lazy because they haven't paid attention to कि चलो यार छोटा जा grammatical sign लगा हुआ है। It is not कि truth is the name, no. ये प्रोसेस सदा चल चल के collapse हो रहा है perpetually. सत नाम बन रहा है perpetual. So इथों की derive करोगे तुसी उत्थे गल छड्डांगे एक ओंकार ही नाम है।
एक ओंकार ही नाम है, या नाम ही एक ओंकार है।
नाम ही एक ओंकार, right?
Very interesting.
So I think we should,
and that is the sat.
That is the sat also.
Also,
You see
also.
how many? Yeah, Ekte Bani di beauty hai ki every word is so layered.
So layered.
It is so layered, and when you begin to unfold the layers,
Mm.
Baba ji ne ek word use kita vismad.
Mm.
Vismadi ho jana. You know what
Mm.
vismad is?
Like being in ecstasy, kind of.
Awe,
Oh, yeah, oh. Mm.
wonderment. मतलब जब तक ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਇਹ awe ਔਰ wonderment ਦੀ ਸੈਂਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏਗੀ
Mm.
ਕਿ what am I dealing with here,
Yes, yes.
ਤਦ ਤਾਈਂ ਫਿਰ ਆਨੰਦ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਸਕਦਾ।
तब ताई quest नहीं होनी, जब ताई
Quest
quest
नहीं
नहीं
होनी।
होनी, तब ताई you'll be just passing by the same tree every day and you wouldn't notice it.
ਹਾਂ, you won't know। ਹੁਣ ਨਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਹੁਣ ਕੋਈ ਕਹੇ ਜੀ ਨਾਮ ਕੀ ਹੈ, ਏਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਹੈ, ਏਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਕੀ ਹੈ, ਨਾਮ ਹੈ, ਰਾਈਟ, you will get into this loop। ਪਰ ਨਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ unpack ਕਰਨਾ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰੋ, which we will try to do, then you will realize कि I mean, yes, it is the structure of reality, but it engages with you every level। Jeta
Every level.
kita teta now, jeta kita teta now, rin name nahi ko thao।
Everything is in it. It in that sense, it is also the superset of the manifested reality.
Because पहलों से कारा है ना, एक ओंकार superset है।
Superset है.
So you see how I'm trying to see this as notational,
Mm, mm,
because that has to be worked on। You and I have to work on this।
mm,
When I have to see मैं ओंकार किने आ, as we go along we'll unpack this। मैं किस तरह आवां एक ओंकार, जब बाणी में सानू में समझ आंदी जाएगी हौली हौली। No need to rush।
और क्योंकि बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट डिफरेंस है कि द मोमेंट वी कॉल इट दैट ओ रब जिहड़ा है ओ निरभव है निर्वैर है ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਤੇ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਖਿਸਕ ਕੇ ਨਿਕਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਨਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੇ
हाँ
ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਤੇ ਕੁਝ ਸਵਾਲ ਉਠਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਤੇ ਸੈਲਫ ਐਨਾਲਿਸਿਸ ਔਰ whatever that's
हाँ,
not required because I can easily say that is the highest one is like that I am not like this ਮੈਂ ਤੇ ਇਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਆ you know
ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਹ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇੰਜ ਜਾਪਦਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹਉਮੈ ਹੈ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਜਪ ਬਾਣੀ ਵਿੱਚ, ਉਹ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ ਬੇਸਡ ਹੈ। Language is haume,
yes
because you speak in terms of I।
yes
And down the road Baba Ji says कि जिन्हें हुक्म नु जिन्हें एक ओंकार नु पहचान लिया, वो आई करके नहीं बोलेगा मैंने, वो चुप ही हो जाएगा।
चुप ही हो जाएगा and
हाँ,
how beautifully
silent।
that also ties to where we started this discussion that
Yes,
this is a notation this is
yes,
not an ordinary conversation in a language because ਉਹਦੇ
yes।
ਹਉਮੈ ਦੀ ਜੜ ਚੋਂ ਹੀ ਨਿਕਲੇਗੀ this is a
Ah,
self this is like a program which you have to execute on yourself there is no
absolutely।
I
Ah,
telling this to you
ah, ਨਾਨਕ ਹੁਕਮ ਹੈ ਜੇ ਬੁਝੈ, ਬੁੱਝਣ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਲ ਹੈਗਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ, ਸਮਝਣ ਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ।
नहीं है
ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਸਮਝਣਾ conceptual ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ,
conceptual level में
and haume is conceptual।
बिल्कुल
It's not real, as we will see। It's
yes
conceptual,
and
right?
bhujana is like a treasure hunt you have to go through the process
Bujna is more intuitive।
yeah
Intuition।
yeah
ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬਗੈਰ ਲੰਮੇ ਚੌੜੇ ਇਕੁਏਸ਼ਨਾਂ ਸੋਲਵ ਕਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਬਗੈਰ ਹੀ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ।
ਉਹ ਪਜ਼ਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੀਆਂ ਇਹ ਕੁੰਡੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਕੱਢ ਦਿਓ ਚਾਬੀ ਨੂੰ ਬਾਹਰ you can
ਹਾਂ,
do whatever on paper but if
yeah,
you are intuitive it will just hit you directly
there you go, there you go, there you go। ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਜੀ,
beautiful ਠੀਕ
ਅੱਜ
ਹੈ ਜੀ
ਵਾਸਤੇ ਫਿਰ
ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਅੱਜ ਰੈਪ ਅਪ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਸੋ
ਹਾਂ,
ਮਚ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ
thank you for
this
taking the
was
time, and appreciate your recording this। And as we go along, I hope that we can bring our discussion to Jap Baani, one party at a time, and then I'll share my versification and transcreation as we go along।
sounds good I am really looking forward to this and
Okay,
it is really feeding my own quest so I'm
as it
thankful for
is
that
mine,
also
as it is mine। ਚੰਗਾ ਜੀ,
ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਸੋ ਮਚ ਚੰਗਾ ਜੀ
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ
ਖਾਲਸਾ,
ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ
ਫਤਿਹ
ਫਤਿਹ।